When I think about other people and I remove my self centeredness, I find myself being proficient in all those areas. To me, success is in most part directly correlated with true happiness. And my kids are my absolute just pride and joy. And that's kind of the job description. But the deeper calling in coaching football is my ability to interact and impact young men,
Yeah.
specifically who I work with, on the football team. And I believe in that. Go help someone. Go serve someone.
Awesome. Thanks for coming onto the show today, Fesi. Could you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. First off, really look forward to talking with you. Um, as you mentioned, my name is Fesi Sitake. I am from Sandy, Utah, is where I was mainly raised. I have lived here in Spanish Fork now for 8 years. I currently coach football um, at BYU. I coach the wide receivers. This will be my eighth season at BYU and my 15th season overall coaching. I have a passion for sports, specifically football and golf. Yeah, I also have a passion for business, and I also have a passion for reading books and listening to commentary. Just trying to always learn. I have a wife named Holly, who I've been married to for what will be 17 years. This in about a month. I got three kids, two boys who are 14 and 11, and then a 8-year-old daughter. And my kids are my absolute just pride and joy. Um, yeah, that's a little bit about me. And unless you have any other specific questions.
Yeah, I like that. I like how you were talking about how like your kids and your family is some of the like that's your pride and joy. Um, when you were my age, what did you view success as versus now, you know?
Yeah, it's a good question. When I was your age, which is what, 17 years old, just, yeah, basically in my later teen years, I saw success as just having a lot of money, living in a large house, um, having a lot of friends, and at the time, maybe playing in the NFL. That's what I envision as success. And so uh, I've learned a lot of important lessons. And so your follow up question is, as opposed to what I see success is now. Um, to me, success is um, in most part directly correlated with true happiness. Um, and everyone's got different definitions um, and measures of success. And no doubt, I think you have to have um, enough income to support your family, because that leads to being able to provide, which in turn, if factored with other things, leads to happiness. Like everything just goes back to, are you truly happy and fulfilled in the things that really matter? So I in my infancy, I misunderstood what success really was and equated it with what I saw on TV and what I would back then, read in
Yeah.
newspapers or see in magazines.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some of the things that make you happy these days? Like, because I'm sure, because you mentioned that you like business and stuff like that and
Yeah.
family, and you've got an awesome job. And so, like, what's some of the best part about being Fesi Sitake?
Yeah. Well, in terms of what makes me happy, we've alluded to it. First off, is just my family. I grew up, and I had faced a lot of adversity, and like many people, I had my fair share of trials. Um, and even though there was a lot of dark times, I yearned to just have a family of my own, and to take the lessons I learned as a kid and try and apply them in adulthood, and maybe things I missed out on as a kid that I wanted to provide my kids. And so being able to have a family and provide for them and give them experiences, watch them grow, watch them struggle, watch them have victories and loss, all of it is just part of just the ultimate happiness for me. Another thing is my spirituality brings me happiness. I have a firm a believer in Jesus Christ and in my faith, and that has brought me so much happiness in a world that's so chaotic and crazy, and where there's so much uncertainty and so much unknown. I think having something you can fall back on spiritually can really
Yeah.
offset, a lot of the chaos that this world can bring you, and that's brought me a lot of happiness. And then lastly, I mean, there's a lot of things, but the pillars I would say are, my family, my faith, and then my profession, the thing I invest a lot of time and energy in, which is not just coaching football. That's kind of the job description, but the deeper calling in coaching football is my ability to interact and impact young men, specifically who I work with, on the football team. That brings me so much happiness, to be able to recruit young men, and whether they come here or not, to be able to watch them chase and fulfill their dreams, to watch them come here, those who choose to come to BYU, to
Yeah.
watch them set goals and to watch them work hard and make sacrifices, and just try and chase and reach the goals that they've set out for. And so that brings me a ton of happiness and fulfillment as well. And so those kind of three areas, those pillars, wasn't what I was thinking, would bring me happiness and success at a young age, but definitely is what does now.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting because a lot of people talk about how, like, what brings them the most happiness is helping other people reach their goals, and that's always interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I would say at a young age, the teenage years to about, um where I coach these guys, I coach 18 to about 24-year-olds. And one thing that's difficult at that age is science says that's about the most self-centered time of an individual's life. And it's a really unique training ground to have these guys in the most self-centered time in their life, where they have to balance sports and all that it requires and all the sacrifice. They have to balance a full workload of an academic schedule. And they have to balance a social life, and it's a time of your life where you're hanging out, you're courting people maybe to be a future spouse, and you have all these things you have to balance, and then you throw in these wrenches of the pressure of college sports. You're playing on a platform that's very public, and you factor in social media, you factor in the distractions of technology, all these different things. It's been really eye-opening to me, um, to see that challenge, but it's also been very helpful for me as a parent, to kind of help my kids who are on the cusp of being teenagers. I mentioned I already have a 14-year-old, but I hope that I can be equipped with enough tools to help them through challenging times, because the time you're in right now is completely different, than when I grew up. And so I'm grateful I'm able to have kind of closer access to the things that you guys have to go through.
Yeah, yeah, I've always been glad to be, especially in this ward, because there's so much great influence. And then also to be born into the church it's been such a blessing for me.
Yeah, I love hearing that, man. You are way further ahead than I ever was at your age, man. And you're further ahead than I am right now, man. I've always looked up to you. I think you've got an incredible foundation. You've got a great testimony. You seem like you're on a great path. That's why one of the reasons I'm so glad you're doing this podcast, because I think you have wisdom beyond your years, and I'm excited to listen, to all the commentary that you put out.
Yeah, yeah, and I decided, like, I don't know what I'm doing, but if I can set the example for maybe someone else who wants to do what they've always wanted to do, then it would be worth it, you know? And if I can help
Yeah.
people.
Awesome. You are. I think you're setting a great example.
Thanks. So we were talking about, you were mentioning, like, time management with the people on your team. And lately I've been feeling a little bit like the podcast is going to take a lot of time. There's schoolwork. I got to keep my health. And then there's like family relationships and then spiritual. It's like I literally don't have time for everything. What's some of the stuff you've done to help, or what do they do to
Yeah.
manage everything?
That's a great I'm sure you've heard of the analogy. I share it with my players all the time, but, you have that jar, and you have rocks, you have big rocks, you have, pebbles, and then you have sand, right? And, the idea is that those big rocks are the most important thing. You gotta fit, your jar is the day, is the time, constraints that you have. And then the rocks, and the sand and all that are all the things that you can fill time with. And so we emphasize a lot of what are those rocks, what are those boulders in your life that you have to put in first, that you have to take care of in the day. What are those priorities? Because if you start with the sand first and you fill that up, there's not going to be room for any of those important things. And I think a lot of people understand that concept. What's harder to do is to actually follow through and live it. And so I think you have to, we try our hardest to help these young men. Their boulders, at BYU is their homework. It's their school, right? It's their schoolwork. It's their family. It's football. It's their faith. And that's very little time left. But here's one thing I really believe in as I've kind of navigated throughout my life. I believe in the principle of expansion, and specifically that when you devote your life and your time to caring about people, to loving people, to being kind to them, and that like at your heart is who you are and who you're becoming, time finds a way to expand. You find windows and opportunities to do things that you never thought you were able to do. And I can't chalk that up to anything other than just divine intervention, the grace of God, and allowing things. When you become really focused on who you are at your core, and you really focus on those things that really really matter, I think that focus um allows you to just become a version of yourself that you didn't know you could be. And one of the byproducts of that is having time. Like, it's amazing if I were to just map out my day and all the things I have to take care of at work, administratively, at church, with my family, my extracurricular time, my friends, I would just feel overwhelmed. And I'm like, gosh, there's no way I can hit all these things. Like, how do I give all of my energy to these things that each one of them are so important for different reasons?
Yeah.
But I found out when I just prioritize and say, these are my boulders, these are what's important, and I'm going to do these things. But not only am I going to do it, I'm still going to look for opportunities to help people, to love them, to make them, feel special and all that. When I think about other people and I remove my self centeredness, I find myself being proficient in all those areas. Um, and I know that because I've been on the other side of the coin where I've made it all about myself, and I've been worried too much about results, and I've just worked, 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 and I grind. And then I'm like, it's at the expense of something else. Now I'm a deficient in
Yeah.
another area, and so that's just been one of the really cool lessons to learn in my life up to this point.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. That's helpful because you just put the priorities first, but then also finding other ways to still serve and to turn outward. And
Yeah,
being in the bishopric, you probably have a lot of turning outward. Like I'm sure Tuesday meetings, you gotta clear some schedule to make those happen.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Those have
Yeah,
been my calling has been an unbelievable blessing, and in my life, and because church has always been a boulder for me, right? It's been a priority. My faith has been, but before I got this calling, when I went to church, it was a place where I just wanted to go, and just I kind of sat in the back. I wanted to feel the spirit. I listened to people. I didn't zone out too much, and so I thought I was doing good. But what I was missing out on was the concept of community. Was looking into other people's lives and trying to get to know them and learn from them and their experiences. I kind of just went to just listen and receive the spirit, and take the sacrament, and like, cool, I kind of did my job, and it was good, and I grew from that. But man, being in this calling has forced me to really like talk to people, get to know them, feel and hear of their heart. um and it's really opened me, and just opened me up, and made me really appreciate uh individuals and human beings, and gosh, I've grown so much from it. And once again, the more diligent I am in my calling, the more I feel I give people my heart, the more time expands. I find time to do those all those other things that I love, and it's been a great lesson.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. What are some of the boulders for you? Like, what are your priorities?
It's like I say, faith, my family, 100%. I love golf and I love hanging with friends and all that stuff, but not at the expense of my family. And if I ever feel I'm drifting too much and I'm golf's becoming too much of a focus when I have free time and I'm not giving enough to my family. It's an opportunity for me to go and self reflect and say, what do I need to do? Am I giving enough time to my family? So definitely my family. My work is a bowler. I got to take care of it. It's what provides me, as the source of income for my family. It's I'm also don't want to deprive the young men who I work with and not give them opportunities to know that I'm there and I'm available to help them, and so that's definitely, a boulder of mine. And then my friends, I have a core group of friends that are we we talk frequently. We meet every 2 weeks via FaceTime, and we all
That's awesome.
read. Yeah, we all read and study. Um, some type of a commentary. We rotate. There's four of us, and if I was up, for example, it was my turn. I would put in our thread, maybe as a podcast or a chapter in a book or a conference talk, something that we can digest from 30 minutes to an hour, and for the next 2 weeks, all of us are listening to that, and
That's so cool.
we meet together on Sunday nights, and we hash it out. We say, hey, what'd you guys learn? Let's talk about it. And more importantly than talk about what we learned, how can we apply it to our lives and our current situations? We're so close to each other. We have so much in common. We grew up, a lot of us, and had a lot of similarities, a lot of differences, but there's so much power in that, in having a community of people that you can relate with, that have gone through some similar things with you. And so it's turned into our little boys club, book club type deal. And that's a priority, man. That's a boulder for me because I learned so much from them, and I stay connected to them. And relationships are a huge part of happiness.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. So is that like a mastermind then that you've got built up with your friends, it sounds like?
Yeah, yeah, we started it early this year. We did it with a diet thing. That diet thing was short-lived. We all just got fat again. But but our little circle, that we call it the fountain, right? Where we all go to drink to learn. And we do that every 2 weeks on the dot, and we've been, religious about it. And we look forward to it, and it hasn't dried out. It's been awesome. I'm glad that we're doing it, and I've grown so much from it, and I have a lot of happiness and fulfillment that comes from that.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. My friend, before he left on his mission, he would do this group. It was called The Forge, and we would do a workout, and then we would do a preach my gospel lesson. And we discuss our goals, and it was like that.
Cool.
It was super cool. Yeah,
That's so cool. I wish I could even say I did something close to that at your age, and so that's amazing. But isn't it amazing? Isn't there so much power in that, in relationships? Like you're able to um struggle and work out and grind, right? Like do a workout with your friends and be in the kind of in the trenches together, and then you follow that up with something spiritual where your guys' spirits are connecting on a certain level. Like those are experiences and moments that you can't manufacture in life. Like you have to go through things, and that's you're well on your way. I know you're already there, but on building that happiness and that fulfillment. So cool that you're doing that. Good job.
yeah, yeah. I've been thinking recently I should probably get a group like that going again because there's a lot of other guys in the group that now that he's gone, it's not going anymore. But finding a time for something like that
Yeah.
is tough.
So he was kind of the muscle that kept it going.
Yeah, yeah. But now
Yeah.
that school started again, we'll probably start it up again soon.
Got it. Yeah, yeah. Do your deal, man. Work your magic. Get back to the forge. I like that. About the forge. That's good. It's a little better than the fountain. We need a whoever came up with that. I need to borrow them and give us a new name.
Yeah, maybe we could have a joint meeting. We'll do a
Yeah,
Q&A with you guys.
yeah. We'll give you guys royalties.
Yeah. So how did you come to know these friends over the years?
All of us met our freshman year, right out of high school. We were all recruited to Southern Utah University, fresh
That's
out of
so
high
cool.
school. Yeah, all 3 of us were from Utah, um, all kind of, like, either played against each other or met each other in the high school football circuit, and then one of them was from the state of Hawaii. But we all met, we came on a recruiting visit together, and once we all officially signed and went to Southern Utah, we lived in dormitories together, and each of us had a different roommate that was, so none of us ever lived together, but we were all in the same dorms with a different roommate, and we would just kind of we'd hang out, we'd go play sports together. Obviously, we were on the football team together, so we were always around each other. But we'd play video games together, and we just started clicking. And man, we hit it off. And right after our freshman year, we all decided to go on our missions because back then you had to wait till you were 19 years old. And so we
Yeah.
had to go to college for a year. And in that year, we look and we're so grateful that that was the criteria because we wouldn't probably have never hit it off like we did. And so we all left on our missions at the exact same time. And I don't know, every mission's different, but back then, like elders didn't really write elders. Elders wrote their family and they wrote their girlfriends, or they were getting Dear John. And so, but we all wrote each other religiously because we formed such a tight friendship our freshman year. And then we came back home from our missions at the exact same time. And
It's awesome.
we were all ready. We were all ready to go to the University of Utah, and the stage was set. But we ended up, long story short, we ended up going back to Southern Utah together. We made a decision together as a group. We finished out our next 3 years there. All of us started getting married and having kids, and we were each other's best man at our weddings, and just we did everything together. And then life happens. We all get our careers. We go on. We move different places out of the state, but we just stayed in touch. And it all started from freshman year, hanging out, spending time with each other. Um, and then on the mission, writing each other. And then when we came back home, before we all started dating and finding our girlfriends, our future wives, and getting married, we lived together. We actually lived together under the same roof and would do scripture study together, would have fun together, would laugh together, would sing together. And so, man, those are my boys. They are my brothers. And just like you with the Forge, we did so much together. We saw the best of each other, we saw the worst of each other. But all of it has formed this or forged this unbelievable relationship, this unbreakable bond that we hold to this day.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I like that. So you're talking about how you guys all started getting married. What point, or what impact do you think the person you marry has on your success in life?
Man, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked it because anytime I get a chance to talk about my wife, I'll never pass up the opportunity. She is absolutely my hero. She's the greatest blessing, that I've had. I mentioned I grew up with a lot of struggle, like many people, and I was void of a mother figure my whole life. And the first time I was ever able to see what a real, um, father, mother, husband, wife relationship was on a consistent basis. Like I saw flashes growing up at my friend's house or at the ward, but that's all just surface. It's kind of what you see, right? The first time I was ever able to experience what a true husband wife relationship was when I got married. And so I didn't have a great blueprint of what that looks like. And so it required a ton of patience and understanding and love from my wife to be able to dismiss and excuse all of my immature, self-centered habits that I picked up because I struggled with stuff. Like she took it, man, and she softened my heart and she gave me just a perspective of life that I wouldn't have gotten anywhere else had I not married her. And so that, I mean, do you want to talk about? I talk about my three best friends. Obviously, she's my ultimate best friend, and what a huge decision that is in making sure as you find your uh your spouse, and what I believe to be your eternal companion. If you can truly, it's cliche, but if you can really say that, like, is that my best friend? Um, you're off to a great start. And I think love is something that just continues to grow. And I believe in that. It is like a plant. And if you're so in love with someone and they can be your best friend, if you foster that, it can only grow. So I love it. I know that's probably kind of all over the place answer from what you asked, but she's been a saving grace for me.
Yeah, yeah, I like hearing about that when people just like they love their wives and stuff like that. I think it's awesome. What kind of steps do you think younger guys should be taking to get ready for eventually, getting married and stuff like that? Because I think you got to build the character to attract the right kind of person.
Yeah, that's such a great question. I was I just mentioned it and I'll say it again. I was not myself. I know I wasn't fully equipped to be married. My wife deserved someone who was more um, polished and ready. But she was able to come down to my level and help me hold my hand through my struggles and learning new things. But to your question, I would just say the first thing is you at the core you have to say, what is my motive as I'm dating someone? What is my motive? Am I looking for and people I think sometimes you don't always have to date to get married, right? You don't go on a date to say, "Is that my wife?" Now, there's gonna be a time that that happens, but I think what's always safe is to say, "Is this girl who I'm courting, is this girl who I'm gonna take out on a date or dinner date or hang out with, does she have qualities that I'm looking for in my future wife?" And I think if you have that just as a foundation, as the first thing, you're naturally gonna filter down to the highest quality of a young woman. And I know that sounds simple in principle, but once again, it's hard to do. There's social media, there's all these factors that make that really difficult. But I would just say to any young man who's like trying to maybe get into that phase where they could be married down the road in the next 2 to 5 years, whatever that is, really keep that at the back of your mind. Is any girl who I take out on a date, if I'm not looking for marriage right then, I still need to make sure she has the qualities of someone who I want to marry.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's great advice for people. Speaking of advice, what's been some of the best advice that you've received?
Ooh, man, that's a great question. I'm one that I like certain advice doesn't, there's nothing that just says, oh, this person said this. My advice comes in forms of examples of actions. And growing up, there are people who are just, I distinctly remember um, at how they carried themselves and how consistent they were in their life. I have a visiting. Back then, it was called home teacher. In the church now, we call it ministering or a ministering, assignment. But back then, I had a home teacher, and him and his wife were the most kind-hearted, consistent people. Our house was not a typical house. There was a lot of chaos going on under our roof, and they were steady every single time. Every birthday, they brought a cake. Every visit, they brought a message. They always expressed their love for us. They just showed up, showed up, showed up. That to me, as I watched that, that forever has been ingrained in my head about what does it look like to love something and to be consistent in it. And I always remember that. It's one of the first things I go to. And I guarantee at a young age, they had no idea that they were going to have that type of impact on me. That wasn't their motive. Their motive before every visit wasn't, hey, let's go visit the Sitake family because one day Fessi's going to talk about us at how impactful we were, right? They did it because that was their heart. They loved it. And it had an impact on me. And each visit stacked on top of each other was transformative. And so I look back, that wasn't a piece of advice that was directly given to me, but it was an example of do you want to if you really love something, throw your heart in it and be consistent at it. And that to me is just one of the examples as I look back in my childhood about yeah, a great example and a piece of advice that was given to me through action.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. How has that changed how you treat other people? Like now that you're an example for a lot of people.
Big time. They showed me what sympathy really is. They showed me what being Christ-like really was. Even though our house, we had some dynamics in our house where it was really easy to judge our household, to judge our family. We weren't the typical people in the neighborhood, and they never, ever, ever once, we never felt judged by them. It was pure love. And so whenever I find myself in this day and age, because I'm human and I get caught up in judging people or having a hard time, applying grace, I think of them. I see Ralph and Edie's faces in my head, and I'm like, man, they had every reason to stop visiting us, to not want to come because whatever thing was going on, but they didn't. They were consistent and they loved. And they were people growing up. I was like, that is happiness. Even though I had it in my mind saying what success and happiness look like now sitting in my chair, that's happiness, what they had. Um, so yeah, that's one of the things I've picked up from them.
Yeah, and I think that's super cool. I was talking with Bishop, and he was telling me a quote he heard. It's like you can be happy rich, or you can be happy poor, and I like it how everyone can find happiness, and you don't have
Yeah.
to. It's not tied to money or any material thing. I think it's all relationships, like your relationship with God and with your family. I think it's really all relationships.
I love that. Well said. Because the people, once again, everyone's definition of success is different. But if you share the same definition of what being rich is and what being wealthy is, it's that. I think if you have solid relationships and a foundation with the people that matter the most in your life, God first, your family, your spouse, your kids, your friends, your colleagues, the people you interact with at work, they're not perfect relationships, right? But if you have solid, meaningful relationships, to me, that's what being rich is. And then a lot of the times, the byproduct is, you know, uh, you know, yeah, having bounteous blessings, and that come in form of money or whatever it is. Like, but that for all people who are truly happy, that's never their motive is money. Money's a byproduct. And I've been blessed in my life to be able to have a source of income and do things on the side where I'm able to get money. But man, none of it supersedes how am I doing in my relationships with the people who I love the most.
Yeah, I love that. There's my favorite verse. It's Jacob 2:18, and it says, "But before you seek riches, seek ye first the kingdom of God." And I've always liked that one because it's like it's okay to try to make a lot of money, but you got to make sure your heart is in the right place first. And so that one, I keep it on my phone. And I just read that one every day.
I love that. And I love that you keep it on your phone because we can say that right now. But then you turn on TV or social media or you get out in the public and that message is hard to see because it's a rat race. Everyone's chasing stuff, right? And so we can fall into that trap because we're human. But for you to have that right there, as something that you see all the time to keep you humble and level headed, I love that. That's a great example. And I think I should adopt that. I appreciate you sharing that example with me.
Is there any verses that have been specifically helpful for you?
Ooh, I'll just say in general, the scriptures in general have been such a blessing in my life. I'll say this: I'm big in commentary, um, where I'm listening to podcasts and audiobooks and stuff like that, and I truly believe in personal study as well, scripture study, right? And there's been times in my life where I've the scales have been tilted. I'm listening to way too much commentary and not enough scripture. And then I think there's times where I'm engulfed in the scriptures, but I don't involve outside perspective. I think that's the value of commentary. And the way I see it is you have to have personal study because that's God's direct revelation to you, but then commentary is important because it highlights community and that people go through things together and we struggle together. And listening to those two things together is something I really believe in. And so there's no specific verses that are like, man, this is like my mantra. Like I just love the idea that there's so much out there commentary that you can learn from other people's experiences and realize you're not alone. But then there's this like sacredness of doing stuff by myself individually with me and my heavenly Father and my Savior, and those things working together create an impact that I can't ever really fully explain.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. What does commentary look like for you? Like, is that like podcasts that talk about like the Come Follow Me for the week, or is that? What is that for you?
Yeah, I'm big. So I have on the spiritual side, like I audio my scriptures a lot too. I think there is something about sitting down and reading, which I can do better at. But I for sure listen to just audio scriptures. I have this routine I've been doing since January, since the beginning of this year. I started from the 70s decade of General Conference, and
Really?
I went to the first April session in 1970, and every morning, when I'm on this, I just kind of say a quick prayer and I say, uh, please lead me to the right talk. And all I do is I scan the morning session and I look at the titles. And I just say, when I'm done reading it, I pick the title that I think I need to hear and I listen to that. Well, then on the drive home or the next morning, I'll go to the afternoon session and I'll do the same thing, right?
So
So
cool.
I do it by sessions. And then once 1970 is done and I'm done with those sessions, I move to 71 and I do the same thing. And so I'm up to the 90s now, and it's been
Oh, wow.
amazing. Yeah, it's been amazing to just listen to just how certain things have been changed, not core principles, like, those are all there, but just, the way people speak and some of the examples, and it's been so cool to see that. But that's been a fun exercise that I've been doing. So that's commentary I do in terms of conference talks. I'm huge into podcasts. I'm huge into self help, wealth management, business stuff. I'm big
Yeah.
into motivational stuff. Your Ed Milet's and psychology stuff with Malcolm Gladwell or Tim Ferriss, and I like listening to things like that. Um, and then yeah, and audio books. I love books and I love listening to them, and so I've just made it a point that I drive every day to work. It's about 20 to 25 minutes to and from. And I'm like, man, if I can stack 50 minutes a day
Yeah.
where I'm just listening to things as opposed to just blasting music and being numb. And I think it's okay. You got to turn off your brain sometimes. But in my car, I like to take advantage of listening to things. And what's amazing is when I listen to the right things, that are centered on people and helping you become a better person, I show up to work now and I'm in a better place. And when the stresses
Yeah.
of work add up and I drive home and that's what I'm listening to, I come home, not a perfect father, but
Yeah.
someone who wants to be a little bit better, right? And so those are the times that I really listen to commentary. And then whenever I mow my lawn, like my yard work, my yard routine, it's about an hour and a half deal. I pop headphones on, man, and I just go and I listen. And so there's so many people out there, they don't know how much they've impacted me by their
Yeah.
words. And they'll say something that will really trigger a thought, and I'll write it down or I'll just keep it in the back of my head, and then that will lead me to something else, and then that will lead me to something else, and I receive something so profound, but it happened because someone said something that initiated a thought. And that's what I love about commentary and just listening to people. And so anyways, those are a couple of things I listen to, some of my routines when I listen to them, but it's been a huge part of my life, and I'm grateful I have access to those resources.
Yeah, it's cool to be able to learn from anyone. It's like
Yeah.
you've probably heard that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and now because of, like, podcasts and audiobooks, you can spend the time with people you'd never be able to get in the room with, which is super cool to me.
Great point. Yeah, I love that. Love that.
Is there any specific, books that you would recommend? So let's say someone's already reading their scriptures every day, what kind of self-help books should they pick
Yeah,
up?
that's a great question. I don't know if you've heard of Ego is the Enemy. That's an incredible book that I think anyone can benefit from. Really highlights that everyone's got ego in them. Everyone's got a sense of pride in them that I think we have to combat. It's human nature.
Yeah.
Shoe Dog by
Yeah,
Phil
just on
Knight.
the title,
Oh, yep.
oh, Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, I haven't read that one, but I've heard of that. The ego one, just from the title, I think I would be benefited from reading that one.
Ego is the Enemy. It's one of my all-time favorite books. I think everyone should not just read it, but should read it or listen to it multiple times. There's so much great knowledge in that. And so, yeah, Shoe Dog by Phil Knight is an incredible biography. There's a lot of life principles in there that I think you can gain. It's cool to hear about his story and the success and all that, but there's so many cool pivotal life lessons from that. Anything Malcolm Gladwell, I'm a huge fan of. I think specifically. The David and Goliath is a really good one, and Blink. Just the importance of just kind of quick decisions and the impacts that those have is a great book. So, um, yeah, there's a lot. Like I could open my library of Audible, and I'm very I gravitate towards anytime you write something good, I like to read all of your books. Bill O'Reilly has a lot of series. They're called the Killing series. Killing Jesus, Killing Lincoln, people who have died, and he goes through their biographies and takes a deep dive in their life and just people who were executed or martyred that were heroes, and he just kind of highlights them and their life and the good things that they did. And so big into biographies like that as well. And anyways, those are some suggestions of and good listens.
Yeah, yeah, those sound like great ones. A few months ago, I got my own Audible subscription. It's been one of my favorite things. I get 2
Nice.
books
Great
every month
investment.
on there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great investment, man. Good for you.
Have you heard of Benjamin Hardy? He's one of my favorite authors right now. He's a member of the church and he writes a lot
Yeah,
of yeah.
I have
Yeah,
heard of
he's a
him.
great one.
You have a favorite of his that maybe if I
Um,
haven't
I think his
read it?
new one, it's called Scaling, The Science of Scaling,
Okay, I
and it
have.
talks a lot about when you set goals that you should set something like way higher than you think you'd be able to do, and then it's going to make you grow a lot more. Like people will do like a 10% growth goal versus if you did something like 10x or something like that, and it's going to force you to find the quickest path to success versus if you set smaller goals. So that's
the
been one of
sci-
my
the,
favorites.
the science of scaling. You said.
Yeah, by Benjamin Hardy.
Okay. Yep. I know Benjamin Hardy, so that title I'll have to download that one. So I got a lot of
Yeah.
credits pending, so I can buy some books now. So
Yeah. Yeah, another favorite is personality isn't permanent. That one is cool. It's like it doesn't matter who you were yesterday, you can be better tomorrow.
I love that. That's a great one. I don't know if you've heard of Tom Roth. He's someone who I think is when I was talking about self-centeredness, he writes a book literally titled "It's Not About You." Right? And so it's literally on it's on self-centeredness, and it's basically he gives you a synopsis on just or a guide on how to live like a meaningful life. And he gives you awesome principles about that. That's been a really, really good book. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention that because earlier I talked about the pivotal time in your life. If you're doing a podcast for kind of people around your age and things to avoid that maybe they can help them not learn lessons the hard way, like giving up self-centeredness is really hard to do. So when I talk about It's Not About You as a book and Ego as the Enemy, and those are two books, if you can keep digesting those things, man, you're off to a great start because I learned those lessons a lot later in life. So
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get those 2 books as my next 2 on Audible.
awesome. Good, man. Good.
Well, kind of closing up here, is there anything else you want to share with the listeners once they hear this?
um Gosh, I just on my mind recently has been and I share this, you're in my ward, and so but on my mind a lot recently has just been um the concept of Jesus and how he always went about doing good. And I shared that, and I just think there's so much value and there's so much power in your life. Everyone's going to have struggles. Like life is not all roses. It is meant to be that way. We are meant to struggle because when we struggle, we have to turn to something. And a lot of people turn to things that are not healing. They numb you. They're quick fixes. And the alternative is to turn to things that are holistic and infinite and actually have depth. And for a lot of people that could be different, whatever religion you're a part of, or if you believe in God. But for me, man, as I've gone through a lot of things and continue to go through things, I'm able to turn to God. So many times recently it's been, hey, the answer has been subtle. You want to get over this? You want to get over this trial, or you want to feel peace in your heart? Go do something good. Go help someone. Go serve someone. There's been so many miracles I've seen. There's been so much curing that's happened in my life by thinking about other people, by trying to go about and doing good. Um, Man, it's why I said so yes so fast to your podcast because I think you're doing good. And I always want to reciprocate. If someone's out there trying to do good and I feel that from them and we're on the same frequency, whatever it is. And I don't know if there's any value in I'm gonna bring what I say or anything, but if I see you trying to do good, it makes me want to do better, right? And you want to pay it forward. And I think as everyone in the world latches onto that concept and just wants to do better, it's powerful, man. It's a train that can't stop. So that's if I were to leave you with something or give any last advice for your listeners, it's that try to be good every day. Try to do good. Try to treat people good. And when you fail,
Yeah,
because you will, and I do, stand back up and say, "Okay, I'm gonna do good," and keep countering darkness and failure and bad. Keep countering it with more good, and it starts to change your very nature and people around you, and they now aspire to do better, and it changes the people around them, and they aspire to be better, and it's just a cycle that can't be broken, and yeah, I would highly encourage that.
yeah. I think it's so cool that it's like almost it's like kind of built into the universe that if you want to be happy, you've got to help other people, and I love
Amen.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wise words, man. So
yeah. I think that that wraps up the episode. Thank you so much for coming on today.
my pleasure,
It's
man.
been
Thank you so much, Sam. Yeah, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate what you're doing, impact you're trying to have. I appreciate who you are. Um, whether this piece here that we just had, um, or any others that you have on, whether they reach one person or whether they reach 1,000, you're the one who's growing from this, and I think that's beautiful, man. And so I appreciate your example. You're motivating me to be better in different areas of my life, and this conversation's allowed me to reflect on what I've done good and what I need to keep doing, but what I've also maybe struggled with and haven't done bad that I need to pick back up. And so I appreciate you bringing those things to top of mind, and I look forward to improving and being better.
yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Fesi.
My pleasure, Sam. Take care.